Hello, and welcome to Side 1, Side B with Dave and Steve. I'm Dave.
And I'm Steve.
All right,
and that's my dad outside doing lawn care.
If it shows up, it shows up.
Enjoy the beautiful industrial noises of my dad's weed whacker. We're going to sample it and turn it into a 20-minute Lucid Fugue song.
We should. Just like...
We just run out there with the microphones and not explain it to him.
Yeah. Put a brick in front of the mower while your dad isn't looking and record it.
We are saboteurs.
And then just slow it down so it just sounds like death.
All right. And then it'll be our tribute to Sun, the Doom Band.
Speaking of tape noises, Steve, what do you know about Cabaret Voltaire?
Nothing. I think you've mentioned them to me before, but that's the extent of it.
They're probably the first industrial band, considering they started in 1973. It's kind of one of those things where it came together over time. They were from Sheffield in the UK, which meant they weren't part of the whole London punk scene, but they were obviously familiar with it. They were more part of, like the Northern England post-punk type thing, like they would have been familiar with bands like, and like playing the same clubs with bands like Joy Division and Throbbing Gristle and stuff like that. They have a lot in common with Throbbing Gristle in that they were kind of inventing the technology they were using as it was coming along because it didn't exist yet.
So we have them to thank for a lot of the music we listen to today now, you'd say.
Oh, yeah, I definitely would say that. They were... They started off as a three-piece with an occasional drummer coming in. They did a lot of tape loops and stuff, so they didn't always need a drummer. But yeah, their original lineup was they had like a guitar player / multi-instrumentalist, a singer bass player / multi-instrumentalist, and then like a guy who did like keyboards, mainly organ early on, and like weird tape loops and tape effects. By the time the album we're going to do now is called The CRACKDOWN.
Let me take a look at it.
Yeah, take a look at the cover, tell me what you think, and I'll get some more information about the band themselves.
Just a self-portrait picture?
Yep.
Okay, cool. It looks like a couple of dudes. Wouldn't be too out of place today. That looks like a laptop, but it's probably too early for a laptop, I'd imagine. It says portable, though. I don't know what that is. It must be like a portable studio of some kind.
Yeah, maybe like a tape machine of some kind.
Yeah, and then you look on the back, and it's another cool-looking machine of some type. Almost looks like a cell phone, but yeah, it would be too early for a cell phone. And we got the sleeve, got more... Oh, it's just the same pictures. Ooh, an artist code.
Oh, yeah. So I was able to have it digitally and on vinyl.
Oh, fancy.
One of the things that I have on my computer and on vinyl, but not on CD.
Well, CDs are out of date now.
Apparently, I still buy them, but yeah. 'Cause they're easier to put on your computer.
True.
And I like to own my music. I think I've talked about this before, but, with the way things can just be taken down off of streaming arbitrarily, it's good to just have your own files.
Yeah, I'm just kind of at the point where I used to buy like anything I wanted to like listen to just to experience, but now I think if I buy anything, it's just because I actually want to own it. So
if you want to listen to it more than once, yeah.
I wouldn't own the entire Kiss discography on CD today. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, that's a hint for a future episode that we have coming. That we're going to make Sean listen to Kiss.
That'd be so funny. Let's not tell him that that's what we're going to make him do. We'll tell him that it's something that'll piss him off, but won't tell him what.
we might have to bleep out in case he listens to this then. Well, all right. So what do we have to look forward to on this album?
Okay, this was their 6th album. This one is just Richard H. Kirk, the guitar player, and Stephen Malander, the vocalist bass player. Chris Watson, their organist tape guy had left the band at this point. This is their first album without him, so it's a little poppier than their old stuff. There's still like weird tape effects and samples, but they're not as prominent as they used to be. Like some of their earlier album, there is no vocal that isn't processed through tape distortion. This one, there's vocals where you can actually make out the lyrics, other than like the chorus name. But yeah, this was their considered like their kind of poppy sellout album. It is one of the weirdest, most alienating albums I have heard. It just is less weird and alienating than the preceding 5 records.
I was gonna say this is their pop sellout record, but it's still weird and alienating. So
yeah, this is their pop sellout album, and they have a song called "Why Kill Time When You Can Kill Yourself" on it.
Oh God. All right, well. Let's pop this on, and we'll check out some Cabaret Voltaire, the Crackdown, and we'll see you at the end of side 1.
Are we rolling? Yeah. Welcome back to side 1, sorry, yard work noise with Dave and Steve. That was the first side of the Crackdown by Cabaret Voltaire. A little more history of the band before we get into it. They named themselves after a nightclub from Zurich, Switzerland, that during World War I was like a big home for the Dada movement. So it was a bunch of angry, young, left-leaning to left-wing artists who were mad about the cruelty and inhumanity of the world going on around them, and were therefore making the most angry and alienating art they could. The club itself was named after the Enlightenment philosopher / comedian, basically Voltaire, who was pushing back against the relentless optimism of the Enlightenment era by making fun of it. So yeah, the long tradition of angry progressive people being jerks being jerks to people who kind of deserve it because society is not good around them. They came out of, England in the 70s and 80s, so didn't start during the Thatcher era, but like all the things that would lead to neoliberalism and austerity and all that were in the tea leaves for people who could read them, like a lot of musicians at that time. So yeah, they were
angry leftist progressive musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like my kind of guys.
Yeah, so that was them. What Steve, what did you think of that first side?
As two guys that were born into the Reagan eras, you during the beginning and me towards the end, I could definitely relate to these guys. Yeah, I will say I quite enjoyed this a lot. It's definitely my what I've been looking for in my electronic exploration as far as what I'd like to see more of in adding to my playlist. I really liked the opener.
2424?
Yeah. I'm one that really likes repetition in music, so I really like how they utilize repetition in their songs, particularly that one. And then I also really liked In the Shadows, how they played with the minimalism at the beginning there. But overall, I'd say all of these songs were excellent electronic songs. And, I could hear a lot of different styles of music that were either inspired by or probably either came up at the same time, so they were using some of the same equipment. Because I could hear a lot of similarities with not only industrial, like you mentioned, but I was hearing a lot of similarities to early hip hop.
Yeah, they were, discovering a lot of the same kind of equipment, like the cheap sequencers that a lot of people in early hip hop were using because their parents couldn't afford to buy them instruments, like stuff like that, like the tape loops. And
yeah, like I don't know if hip hop artists were listening to this, but they were definitely using some of the same stuff. Yeah,
I think my favorite track on this first side is In the Shadows. I like the creeping minimalistic thing. That one is the one that sounds the most like their earlier stuff, although I think the departure that they're making is good as a whole. I think side 2 is the stronger side, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, all 4 of these songs were really good. I liked just how dancey it got though, with talking time and animation.
Yeah, I like electronic dance stuff a lot, and I especially like it when it's combined with creepy music, because I like creepy music.
I like the pounding dance beat, but just like with the the alienating tape noises that sound like a train whistle underwater type of thing. It's
like we're having fun, but we're also depressed.
Yeah. Which I guess Northern England, that is the norm, like, well, everything's falling apart around us. The weather is always gray. We are the ones who experience the most of the budget cuts because we're not considered the cultural center. And as factory jobs get moved overseas to make them cheaper and exploit the workers even more, everything's just shutting down.
Yeah,
but let's have fun with it.
Yeah, that's the same area Black Sabbath are from, and they wanted to make dreary music that makes you think you're gonna die and go to hell. So
yeah. This was like at some point we'll do one of their earlier records just to show you what that was like too. But yeah, this was if this is a pop album, I don't think pop is bad. There's one of my favorite bands of all time is Sparks, which is just pure pop. But yeah, I think this was for a departure to a more poppy sound. I think what they ended up making was their most accessible record. This is the record that I like to show to people who I want to show the band, because I feel like this is a good jumping on point. It gives you more to latch on to than some of their early stuff, which I still love. But there's only so much you can get into something if you don't have just a little thing to latch onto and then figure out all the subtleties in the background then.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of times with more experimental or more progressive or industrial type bands, their earlier releases tend to be more alienating. But once you take the path that allows you to get into that sort of stuff, then you're able to see the artistic brilliance of some of that stuff when you're able to see it through. I don't know. I kind of see it like a compatibility layer. You hear something that's more catchy, and human brains want to latch on to catchy things, but once you get into that, then your brain's like, well, I need more of this.
Yeah.
So you start looking into the more obscure stuff, and you're like, I get it. It's like the Danny DeVito meme from It's Always Sunny.
Yeah. Well, it's at some point too, you do all of the weird alienating stuff for a while, and you want to do, might as well write a song with a melody and a beat that someone can dance to, and you still incorporate all the stuff you've done before that, into the song itself, but it gives it. It's a great jumping on point then for people then too. It builds on the earlier stuff, but makes it more widely available to a bigger audience, which I think is a good thing as a whole for the most part for most artists.
Yeah, I think it's funny when people get mad at artists for growing.
Yeah.
It's like, what, you don't want to make the same album your entire career like AC/DC?
Yeah.
And I think most artists are like, no.
The interesting thing about that whole Sheffield, Northern England thing, they weren't the big one that people think about when they think of the Northern England post-punk scene was Manchester, because Joy Division and Factory Records and all that, them being in the same area. But a big thing about the whole Northern England scene is a lot of them liked the lyrics behind the early punk scene, the London stuff and 77, but they thought it was musically too conservative. It's here are these lyrics about burning things down, but it's just over Chuck Berry riffs. So they wanted to do something that musically reflected the idea behind anarchy in the UK.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, so that was the first side. Now we're going to move on to the second side. But
what do we have to look forward to on side B here?
We have the last song of the album is the title track, which I like that move. This one leans even more into, the more accessible kind of synth pop type stuff, which I think works pretty well. Kind of easing their long-term hardcore fans into it.
So this is the poser side.
Yeah, this is the poser side, but the more listenable side. I kind of wonder if people who are coming into this who want to just get synth pop would be better off starting with side 2.
I've actually talked to people that grew up in more of the vinyl era, and I've met people that say they start with the side 2 because they like it better, and that's not really a thing anymore because it's all on one playlist now.
Yeah,
so that's kind of interesting. That's kind of disappeared, but
I like the idea of preparing the albums into 2 kind of discrete sides that need to stand on their own.
Yeah, even when I was doing my solo album, I was purposely thinking about a side 1, side B kind of situation, even though I doubt I'll ever have the money to press it onto vinyl, but if I ever do, it's already ready for that. So,
and something I thought of earlier to call out a much more famous, much more successful person who does online music commentary. There's one of the all-time greats, Todd in the Shadows, does a series on his YouTube channel called Train Records, where he goes through albums where bands or artists' careers just kind of derail. And one of my favorite episodes of that is the one on Billy Idol's ill-advised turn into industrial and techno in the 90s called Cyberpunk. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've listened to it. I that's one we should do on this show.
Honestly, we should.
Yeah, but yeah, I liked it when I listened to it, but it definitely sounded like it was recorded in the 90s digitally. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, early 90s Pro Tool on like Windows 95. Yeah. But yeah, Todd in the Shadows record on it is he was talking about cyberpunk as a genre and was pointing out, it was more of a literary thing, There's Neuromancer and Snow Crash and things like that. Then, and then there is like a lot of influence from movies like Blade Runner, which was an adaptation of a Philip K. Dick novel, but that, it was really the movie that got like the whole cyberpunk aesthetic down. And then there was like manga and anime, like particularly things like Akira and Ghost in the Shell, but that there really wasn't like music that was cyberpunk. I disagree, Todd. I think there was a lot of music that was cyberpunk, and it was from northern England in the 70s. It was, stuff like Cabaret Voltaire, Throbbing Gristle, The Normal, Tubeway Army, even though they were a little more poppy than the rest. But just like music that was catching the experiment of punk, but was very kind of like future focused with the electronics and the like. Oh, like early Human League, like their punkier stuff definitely falls under that. So, yeah. I am going to start a beef with someone I respect this early in the run.
I wonder what steampunk would sound like as a genre.
A lot of violins and drum machines that are that sound like steam-powered equipment. Yeah, like robotic rotors that are like playing like a robot playing the drums made out of.
So I guess kind of like that metal band made of robots called Compressor Head, except. It'd be like remember when Bender was turned into wood in that one Futurama episode? It'd be like that band but turned into wood.
Yeah. And then like all the band members would be wearing goggles and leather aprons for no apparent reason.
I think we need to make that band.
Yeah.
All right, we've yapped enough. Let's move on to side B.
All right, we are back. That was side 2 of The Crackdown by Cabaret Voltaire. Steve, what'd you think?
The first thing I noticed when it was playing is while it was overall more dancey than side 1, it was also darker. The first 2 songs had that baritone voice that kind of reminds me of Peter Steele, and it was really dancey but also kind of depressing. And then it goes into the next track, Why Kill Time When You Can't Kill Yourself, which is the most dancey with a very depressing title, but it wasn't like as depressing as those other 2 songs. I think I remember Haiti is probably my favorite vibe-wise.
That's the one that's the most like their old stuff too. That's like droney tape sounds and like samples and everything's like super distorted, like the way you get by slowing down tape, that type of stuff. Yeah,
and then Crackdown was probably my second favorite on the entire record.
Crackdown's my favorite. Crackdown is the thing I put on when I'm in kind of like a bad mood because I'm watching like a lot of videos of police speeding up protesters. We're recording this at a time when that is happening, by the way. But yeah, it was like a song I would like listen to a lot in 2020 while making sure my phone was in airplane mode when I was out in the streets, and that I turned off biometrics such as fingerprints. Leave it at that. It's a very like dark and paranoid album, but it's not talking about anything that isn't real either. It's not like be paranoid. It's not like an irrational paranoidness. It feels like very grounded.
It's not a Joseph Stalin paranoid.
No, yeah, or a David Icke, or yeah. It's It's a being a sensitive, creative type in Thatcher's Britain type paranoid.
Maybe more like, I don't know, imposter syndrome type.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very good album. I really, really enjoy it. The two singles, I think, is interesting that they put them on the second side with just Fascination and Crackdown. The single version of Crackdown is edited for length because it's one of the longer songs on the album.
Yeah.
But it's a very good one. Like, I really like the way the different parts come in Crackdown, and like by the end, just like that really brutal sounding bass guitar, but with that kind of ethereal type synth, the with
Yeah, you mentioned you like the interplay between the synth and the bass, and I agree. It definitely enhanced the overall atmosphere of all of the songs.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Even though they didn't release it as a single, they did make a video for Why Kill Time When You Can Kill Yourself, which is just like a washed out white background with them, miming playing the instruments. Their live set at this point was, like they would have their bass and their guitar strapped on them, and then they would have drummer that they hired joining them, but then like they would be, like while they're playing, like would take breaks to hit different sequencers or like play the keys or play a tape loop. It was really interesting. It probably took a lot of rehearsal because like that's the kind of thing, having done that type of thing where if you miss your cue, the whole song is ruined. So it's really hard to pull off live.
Yeah, we record stuff like this with Lucid Fugue, and in the digital age, it's pretty easy. Even if you mess up, usually Dan or me can just fix it. But I have to imagine, the two guys trying to do this all with tapes had to have been interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of equipment they would have had in 1982, but it probably wasn't easy to operate.
Yeah, and it was probably, like these weren't rich guys either. It was probably not like the most top of the line as a result too. It was like cheaper stuff.
It wouldn't be like the Beatles. Well, they didn't exist in this time, but
yeah, it wouldn't be what John Lennon would have had access to if he wanted to make an album like this.
Well, yeah, and you look at the credits here, and you got Richard Kirk playing synthesizers, sequencers, guitar, clarinet, saxophone, shakuhachi.
I think that's a Japanese stringed instrument, or a band, or like a flute or something. I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
I want to play one now. And grand piano, and then we got Stephen Molander on vocals, bass, trumpet, and grand piano, and then Alan Fish was on drums and percussion.
Okay, shakuhachi, Japanese bamboo flute.
Oh, cool. And then Dave Bell, keyboard and rhythm assistants, rhythm programmers and tapes. Yeah, just all around, lots of good stuff here. It was mastered at Porky's Mastering, so I assume that means it didn't age very well.
A lot of creeping on girls in the shower. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
In general, I like albums where bands that were initially like either really heavy or really alienating in some other way for a general widestream audience, like the first one where they do something more accessible. I think Cabaret Voltaire continued to do good stuff after this, but a lot of times with stuff like this, when a band first moves into a more accessible direction, that first album where they do get more accessible is a really good album. And then it's just trying to replicate it where things eventually start to fall apart. It takes a while for things to start falling apart. Eventually they do. Eventually they run out of ideas, but it takes longer than you would think. Like they were a good early industrial band, and they were a good synth pop band that incorporated a lot of what they were doing in their industrial phase. It seems like pretty natural. Part of it is losing the guy whose main job is doing the tape stuff.
What kind of live setup did they have to promote this album? Did they do a tour for it? Did they have to get session musicians, or did they get another lineup together to do the tour and then they recorded another album? What happened there?
For this era, for the live stuff, you can see videos of it on YouTube if you look really hard. It's just the two of them and a drummer. They're like running all the tapes themselves.
Oh wow.
Like a few years later they would like add more people, but like that's the point when people actually do start to consider it being diminishing returns. They were just kind of like running around stage hitting buttons.
I was going to make a Rush comparison earlier, and that's getting more and more apt as we discuss this.
Yeah. they
were a band that entered I'd say a pop era where Neil Peart started experimenting with electronic drums and Geddy with keyboards, and they were definitely taking on a more 80s new wave style sound. And in a similar vein, for longest time I wouldn't check out 80s Rush because I was like, oh, it's not as good as their 70s stuff because it's not rock. And then of course when I listened to what's the one with Subdivisions on it?
Oh, Moving Pictures? No, that's the one after.
That's the next one.
Yeah.
Or that's the one before.
Before, yeah.
Signals.
Yeah.
When I listened to Signals for the first time, well, I guess I'll make the Danny DeVito joke. It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I think Rush's new wave period did end up getting stale, and then they realized it and they moved on to like their 90s sound. But but while it wasn't stale, they did some amazing stuff with it.
Oh, and it's like, go back to Rush some, like before they moved into the new wave period, their kind of blues rock stuff was getting stale. So like their proggy blues rock. It's oftentimes when a band changes sounds, it's for the best.
Again, not everybody wants to be AC/DC.
Yeah.
Even Motorhead, who was more of a genre slime, I'd say, eventually changed their sound.
Yeah.
It took them decades rather than years, but I hate it when people don't think bands should experiment and change their sounds. I agree that sometimes they take it too far, but at other times it's people would instead hate if Metallica was still making thrash albums to this day, everybody would be like, oh, they're still making thrash albums.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it's like, as someone who has songwriter ADHD, like if you listen to my stuff, like you could argue that that each song is a different like subgenre at least. But yeah, like when my old band Gong Farmer, we weren't intentionally setting out to become a goth band. It's just someone else called us one, and it's like, oh yeah, we kind of are that now, huh? And we just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah,
we'll go with that.
We all like The Cure and Bauhaus, and I paint my nails. Sure, let's just go with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd say overall there wasn't a song on that album I didn't like. I thought they were all bangers and had a very interesting sound that I could shake my head to and shake my foot to, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody that's looking for something in the electronic vein. If you're like if you're a fan of industrial or post-punk or hip-hop or just good music in general, this would definitely be an album you would love.
Oh yeah, it has, like, if you're a fan of like the kind of sounds you get on hip-hop by like early Rhythm Machines, there's a lot of that. They were, they weren't in the same space because Northern England, it's not like they were Blondie or The Clash who were going directly into New York and hanging out with the hip-hop musicians, because I don't know if they ever toured the U.S. I'd have to double-check that. But, like they weren't successful enough to be international superstars and do that kind of thing. So they're just in their dreary little corner of Northern England coming across some of the same sounds on their own, which I think is cool.
I'd be curious to hear what a hip-hop head would have to say about this album, because I'm sure they would really dig it.
Yeah, if I was a rap DJ, this is one of the places I would go to find samples, honestly.
That reminds me, which song did I think reminded me of Ferris Bueller?
I think that was actually the part in the in the Crackdown near the end when the bass is just like kind of so loud and distorted that's bo bo bo. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just picturing Ferris Bueller running away from his principal, just the entire time, and I turned to Dave. I'm like, this is Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. What is Ferris Bueller but someone trying to escape a crackdown from authority figures? Am I right?
Exactly. This album, or at least that song's about Ferris Bueller, confirmed.
Yes. It is not about when I may or may not have broken some laws.
Well, all right. Well, that was Cabaret Voltaire's album, The Crackdown.
Before we wrap up, too, just to cite some sources potentially, a lot of this is stuff that I got from reading. A lot of the stuff I've read on this band was from the book Totally Wired, Post-Punk Interviews by Simon Reynolds. Been a while since I read it, so I can't point to you which page where things were said. Another book that I've come across a lot in my research is Strange Stars by Jason Heller. It was more focused on 70s stuff. It has some very valuable stuff on their earlier equipment. It's about the influence of science fiction on all genres of 70s music. Those are the two main sources that I can think of that I've drawn stuff on for this, just in case the plagiarism accusations start coming for us. Those are what I remember reading at some point about this stuff.
Stole it!
Yes.
Well, all right. Well, next time I'm bringing in an album by the band Samson, who were in the new wave of British heavy metal movement, notably the first major band that Bruce Dickinson sang for before he joined Iron Maiden. So, Dave, are you looking forward to that one?
I am a big fan of Maiden, and it will be interesting to see what Bruce was like before that.
It is I, Future Steve, here for a minor correction. My next album will actually be from Ace Frehley because we had some scheduling conflicts, so we ended up having our guitarist from the Illiterates, Sean, stay by, and we reviewed Ace Frehley's solo album, which we talked about at the beginning of the episode, so it's coming full circle.
Yeah, and then for my next episode, so 2 episodes from now, I'm going to do a very different kind of dance music, and we are going to talk about the B-52s at that point.
All right. And then we can reference the Chop Suey edit again.
Again.
Well, all right. Well, if anybody wants to check out the music that we make, you can check out my website, killrockmusic.com. That's KILRAVOCK music.com. And you can check out the playlists from The Illiterates and Lucid Fugue. That's our post-punk and experimental band, respectively. And if you like this album, you'll like the stuff that we made there. You got anything to plug, Dave?
Well, I guess since I mentioned Gong Farmer again, the band camp for my old band is Gong Farmer, GONGFERMOUR.bandcamp.com. You can kind of see, like, if you go from, like, the first album to the second album, the point where it went from, I don't know, like, quirky Devo type synth punk to more goth stuff. You can see the darkening over time.
Tell the audience what a gong farmer was.
That is a early English word for janitor. It literally translates as dung farmer. So it's like the person who would scoop the shit out. So yeah, that was
for the king.
Yeah, for the king. That was kind of a joke and like about that, and that we were highly educated people who were working minimum wage jobs at the time.
Well, all right. Well, that's it. Go listen to Cabaret Voltaire, and we'll see you next time.
Yep, catch you on the flip side.
Side 1, Side B is a Floof Goof Studios production. Buy our theme song, Non-Euclidean Pornography, on lucidfugue.bandcamp.com.